Hey there, lovely soul. Welcome back to Noah's Stories. Have you ever had a night that felt ordinary until it changed everything? Today's story is about one of those nights, the kind that sneaks up quietly but leaves your heart forever different. So get cozy and let's begin. Some nights feel like nothing special until they change everything. For Rhea Carter, tonight was just another night on the long list of nights she had to survive. Another shift, another job, another few hours traded for the hope of staying one step ahead of the bills piling up on her kitchen counter. Inside the staff restroom behind the ballroom, Rhea leaned over the sink, the cold water calming her aching, overworked hands. Her light blonde hair was twisted into a messy bun, her delicate features softened by fatigue. The cream-colored uniform she wore, borrowed last minute, was wrinkled and a little too big for her petite frame. At 26, Rhea no longer lived for herself. Mornings were spent delivering wedding flowers, afternoons racing across the city for food deliveries, and nights, like this one, serving drinks to the elite of San Francisco at the Aurelian Grand Hotel, one of the city's most luxurious venues. She couldn't turn down triple pay, not when her shift would help cover the next dose of medication for her grandmother, Nana Joyce, the only family she had left. After losing her parents at 14, Nana had raised her, loved her, carried her through. And now, Rhea carried Nana. She stared into the mirror, barefaced, eyes tired but steady. "Just get through tonight," she whispered, tightening her apron. She didn't know that tonight, this unremarkable, exhausting, nothing special night, was about to rewrite everything she thought she knew about her life. The Aurelian Grange shimmered like a gilded palace in the heart of San Francisco, every corner crafted to impress, every detail screaming opulence. Inside the sprawling ballroom, chandeliers sparkled like constellations overhead. Hand-painted murals adorned the walls. Tables draped in ivory silk were crowned with towering arrangements of fresh flowers. The air was heavy with expensive perfume, aged whiskey, and the kind of quiet confidence only the wealthy could afford. Rhea moved like a shadow, gracefully slipping between guests, pouring champagne, offering canapes, keeping herself small and unnoticed. It was second nature by now to disappear in plain sight. Until she felt it. A warmth along her spine, like someone had lit a candle behind her. She looked up and met his eyes. He stood not far away, tall, composed, dressed in a jet black suit that fit like it was made for him. Not flashy, not loud, just undeniable. His face didn't seek attention, but his gaze, it didn't waver. It wasn't predatory, it wasn't dismissive, it was seeing. Startled, Rhea quickly looked down. Her fingers trembled and a few drops of champagne spilled onto the linen. The guest didn't seem to notice, but when Rhea dared to glance up again, that man was still looking at her, still smiling, just slightly. For the first time in a long time, Rhea felt seen, not as staff, not as invisible, but as a person, with a name, a story, and a heart still learning how to beat through the noise. The lights in the ballroom began to dim, signaling the slow wind down of the evening. Rhea slipped onto the balcony, savoring the cool air against her skin, a welcome contrast to the heat and noise she'd endured for hours inside. The night breeze kissed her cheeks. Below, the city stretched like a glowing tapestry, dazzling, distant, unreachable. "The stars look brighter tonight," a deep voice said behind her. Rhea turned. It was him, the man whose gaze had followed her like a thread she hadn't realized she was holding. He stood a few steps away, holding 2 glasses of champagne. He didn't close the space, didn't crowd her, just offered the drink with a gentle ease. "I know you're on duty," he said, his voice low, calm. "The second glass was just an excuse to talk to you." Rhea couldn't help but smile. For the first time in weeks, it didn't feel forced. "So, do I get to know your name?" she asked, taking the glass. "Adrienne," he said simply. "Rhea," she returned, softly. "Rhea Carter," he repeated, like he was tasting rare wine. "Strong but soft. It suits you." Normally, Rhea would have deflected, turned the conversation elsewhere, but something about his honesty made her lower her guard. "My shift ends at midnight," she heard herself say. His smile deepened, slow and sure, as if he'd been hoping to hear exactly that. "And then I'll wait." Rhea didn't quite know why she found herself walking into the hotel lounge after her shift. The simple black dress she always carried in her backpack, usually for bus rides late at night when she didn't want to draw attention, was being used for something entirely different this time. Adrian was waiting, just like he'd promised. Gone was the sleek tuxedo. He wore a crisp white shirt and dark jeans now, looking more casual but no less composed. When he saw her, he stood, and the way he looked at her made her heart stumble. They talked for hours, 3, maybe more, about small things, street food, music, childhood memories, and then deeper things, her grandmother, the dreams she'd shelved in favor of survival. He shared pieces of his life too, how he'd lived in half a dozen cities, never staying anywhere long. He didn't talk much about work, and Rhea didn't push. Eventually, they wandered into the moonlit garden behind the hotel, where jasmine bloomed in quiet abundance. A soft rain caught them by surprise, sending them laughing into a wooden gazebo. She was soaked, curls clinging to her cheeks. He didn't say anything, just watched her, his eyes warm and unreadable. "I should go," Rhea whispered, voice barely audible over the rain, but she didn't step back. "Only if you really want to," Adrian replied, stepping a little closer. His hand found hers, a light touch, gentle and tentative. He gave her space to retreat, but she didn't. Their first kiss was soft, like a question. The second was an answer. That night, for the first time in a long time, Rhea let her heart speak. The rain still fell in soft whispers as they left the garden, walking side by side in comfortable silence. Adrian gently lifted his jacket over her head, a quiet gesture that made Rhea's chest tighten. There were no plans, no spoken intentions, just the moment when he caught her gaze and silently asked, "Come with me?" and she nodded. The boutique hotel stood on a quiet corner, tucked away from the city's noise. Inside a room scented with sandalwood and bathed in amber light, they undressed. Not just their clothes, but their defenses, their doubts, their buried wounds. There was no rush, no urgency, just two souls, quietly recognizing each other and holding on as if the night was all they had. Morning sunlight filtered through the thin curtains, tracing soft gold across the tangled sheets, and the ache of a night that had felt too perfect to be real. Rhea blinked awake. It took her a moment to remember why her chest felt so full and so empty. She was alone. The pillow beside her was still warm, but the sheets had been smoothed. She glanced around. No sound of a shower, no hurried footsteps. Only a note on the table. "Some dreams are worth chasing beyond one night. A." Below it, a phone number. No name, no promises, just a whisper of something unreal, lingering. Rhea held the paper tightly, then sank back into the bed. She didn't know how to feel. The night before, Adrian's gaze, his gentleness, the way he never rushed her, it had all felt real. But waking up without him, without the warmth of his presence, made it all feel like a dream she didn't know she was allowed to believe in. She'd heard too many stories of magical nights that meant nothing by morning. She taught herself not to expect more. Like any other day, Rhea dressed in simple clothes, tied her hair up, and exited the hotel through the back, like she had never been there. But she kept the note in her pocket. She hadn't called. Maybe she never would. But deep down, she knew something had shifted. 2 weeks had passed since that rainy night, the kind of night Rhea thought she'd packed away like something too beautiful to keep. She hadn't called Adrian, not because she didn't want to, because she didn't dare. That morning, while fixing breakfast for her grandmother, warm tea, soft toast, a wave of nausea hit her so suddenly she barely made it to the bathroom in time. The 4th time this week. "Is there something you'd like to tell me?" Nana Joyce asked gently as Rhea returned to the table, pale and shaken. Rhea paused, then sat beside her. She said nothing more that day. No complaints, no questions, no confessions. But after work, instead of heading home, she walked 3 blocks in silence to a quiet little pharmacy. She stood in front of the pregnancy tests for a long time. It felt like someone else, some version of her outside her body, picked one off the shelf and carried it to the counter. In the dim bathroom, she waited. Her heart beat slowly but heavily, turning over every memory of that rainy night. Then, 2 lines. Not faint, not unsure, just there. She didn't cry, didn't panic. She just sat down on the floor, one hand on her belly, breathing deeply, as though trying to steady the new life quietly unfolding inside her. A gentle knock came at the door. "Ria," her grandmother's voice, soft. She opened it. She didn't say much, just walked forward and rested her head on her grandmother's shoulder. "I'm pregnant," she whispered, and Nana didn't ask anything else. She just wrapped her arms around Ria, like she had already known, like she'd simply been waiting for her to say it out loud. Ria was wiping down the counter of the tiny cafe where she worked mornings. The nausea hadn't come today, but her heart thudded for a different reason. Lately, she'd been dreaming of him, his smile, the way he said her name like it was a melody only he knew. She hadn't called him, but not a single night passed without thinking of him. The doorbell chimed. She looked up automatically, and her heart stopped. Adrian. He stood there, truly him, in a soft collared shirt, eyes just as deep and warm as they were that rainy night. "Ria," he said, just her name. And suddenly, the world narrowed. Her knees nearly gave out, not from shock, but from the sheer weight of everything unspoken between them. How did you know I was here?" she asked, voice barely above a whisper. "I've been looking for 2 weeks, Adrian said, stepping forward, hands slightly trembling. "I've checked every cafe in this part of town. I figured if you didn't call, maybe you were scared, and I couldn't wait anymore." Silence. His eyes searched hers, then drifted to her pale face, concern deepening. "Are you okay?" Ria looked at him for a long time, weighing everything she might say, but instead she placed her hand gently on her belly, a wordless answer. His expression shifted, first shock, then something deeper, reverent. "Ours?" he whispered. She nodded. "I'm not asking for anything. I can..." He didn't let her finish. Adrian stepped forward and pulled her into an embrace, soft but certain, like she was the most precious thing he'd ever held. "You're not alone," he said, voice rough. "Not from today, not ever again." "I want to know you, every part," Adrian said as they sat side by side on the bench outside the cafe, now closed for the night. The street lamp cast a soft glow on both their faces. After her shift, Rhea hadn't rushed home. She'd stayed, and he had waited without pushing. "Not because of the baby," he continued, "but because of you. Because you made me feel..." Rhea didn't answer right away. These were the kinds of things she used to dream of hearing from someone. But now that they came, her heart tightened, not with joy, but with fear. "I don't even know your full name," she whispered. "I didn't ask." "Adrian Lau," he said, smiling, "and you're the first person I've wanted to tell that to." She smiled faintly, still not much. "Then let's start with coffee," he grinned. "I like it black, no sugar, no cream. You?" "Latte. Extra milk, extra ice," she said, and for the first time in weeks they both laughed. Slightly, as though something heavy had finally been set down. They didn't talk about the future. No grand plans. He just asked, "Are you on the evening shift tomorrow?" She nodded. "I'll be at the counter, black coffee in hand, waiting for you to close." "Okay," she said. No promises, no expectations. Just a nod between two people who had known loss too well and were still willing to believe in something kind. Every afternoon after her shift, Rhea would find Adrian sitting at the usual spot in the cafe. Black coffee, no sugar, no cream. The drink always sat there going cold because he wasn't there for coffee. He was there for her. Slowly, their conversations deepened. from music and books to fears, losses, and dreams they hadn't dared share with anyone in years. One evening, after she locked up, Adrian asked, "Walk with me?" They wandered quiet streets under soft golden streetlights. Then he stopped, turning to face her. "Ria, there's something I need to tell you." She tilted her head, waiting. The wind played gently with her hair. "I'm not a marketing consultant," he said quietly. "I run Crown Haven Hotels. The hotel we met in? It's mine." Silence stretched between them. Ria didn't speak, just looked at him, steady, unblinking. "I didn't lie to deceive you," he continued, voice low. "I just wanted to know if someone could see me, not my title." The heartbeat. Then she said softly, "So am I talking to Adrian Lau or Mr. Lau?" He chuckled. "Just Adrian, the guy who likes iced lattes too sweet and listens to you talk about your grandma all night." Ria smiled, just slightly, and shook her head. She didn't say, "I trust you," but when they kept walking, she let her hand brush against his and didn't pull away. Sometimes trust doesn't come with big words. It comes in small, silent gestures. Like that. After the night Adrian told her who he truly was, there was no distance between them. No one walked away. No one needed to hide anymore. They didn't rush to label whatever was growing between them, but with each passing day, small gestures were slowly shaping something far sturdier than spoken love. A week later, as Ria got ready for her scheduled ultrasound, Adrian asked if he could come along. She didn't hesitate. For the first time, she wanted someone to witness the beginning, not just the outcome. The ultrasound room was softly lit, familiar, but this time, her hand was tucked inside his. As the technician applied the gel and began the scan, Ria drew in a breath. Then, sound. Fast, steady, fluttering, one tiny heartbeat. She'd heard it before, alone. But this time, she wasn't alone. Adrian stared at the screen, lips parted, heart stilled. Then, another rhythm joined, lighter and faster, fluttering like wings beside the first. The room fell into hushed awe. "That's right," the technician smiled. "Twins." For a second, time stood still. Adrian looked at Ria, his eyes glossy and alight. Ria didn't smile or speak, but the tears that slid silently down her cheeks said everything. He squeezed her hand and leaned in, placing a kiss on her forehead. No promises spoken, because the vow was already written in his eyes. "I never thought I'd carry an entire universe inside one person," he whispered. "2 heartbeats, and you, that's all I'll ever need." Ria guided his hand to her belly, where 2 miracles pulsed in perfect rhythm. For the first time in her life, she wasn't afraid of what lay ahead. She felt a family forming. That evening, after they left the clinic, Adrian brought Ria to a place she'd never been. A small cottage on the edge of the city, nestled behind rows of whispering trees. "It used to be my mother's summer home," he said, unlocking the door. "I've been fixing it up ever since I found out you were pregnant." "I wanted you to see this place," Adrian said as she stepped in, "because I hope this could be our home." Dinner was simple, just pasta and warm berry wine. But when dessert came, the silver tray didn't just carry pastries. It held a small velvet box, deep green in color. Ria froze. Her hands trembled slightly as Adrian rose, walked over, and knelt in front of her. "I don't have perfect words, and I'm far from perfect," he began, voice low but steady. "But I know everything in my life began to make sense the moment you stepped into it." He opened the box, a delicate, slender ring catching the golden light like a quiet promise. "Will you marry me, Ria? Be the mother of this family. Be the last hand I hold. Every morning, every night." She didn't cry, but her eyes shimmered with unshed tears. She nodded, just once, and that was enough. 3 weeks later, they were married beneath a canopy of wildflowers and warm string lights in the garden behind their new home. Ria wore a simple lace gown. Adrian stood tall in a soft-hued suit. Just before the music began, he leaned down, brushed his lips near her ear and whispered, "Before I met you, I built hotels. After you, I built a home. There were no hundreds of guests, only those who truly mattered, and a love that needed no decoration." When Ria walked toward him, she saw only Adrian, and he, like always, saw only her, the woman carrying the most beautiful miracle his life had ever known. 2 years later, Sebastian and Samuel giggled on the wooden floor, their laughter echoing through the sunlit home. Rhea stood in the doorway, hand laced with Adrian's. She turned to him and whispered, "We really did it." Adrian smiled, placing his hand over her heart, the place where it all began. If this story touched your heart even just a little, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Noah Stories. Your support helps these moments find their way to more hearts. And now it's your turn. Have you ever experienced a night that changed everything? Tell me in the comments. Until next time, take care of your heart. You never know when a simple night becomes the start of something extraordinary.